Hello, and welcome back to Pathfinder. My name is Philip, and I'm here to talk about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This is part of a series I'm producing, covering the various deities in the Pathfinder role-playing game and its setting, the world of Golarion. Last time, I covered Aroden, the dead god of humanity, as well as the Earthfall calamity and the Starstone, which raised the last Aslanti to divinity. This time, I am covering Iomedae, the goddess of justice, honor, and rulership, Aroden's former herald, and one of the Starstone Ascendant. Iomedae is the youngest of the core 20 deities of Golarion, having ascended to divinity less than a millennium ago in the year 3832 AR. She is often referred to as the Inheritor, a reference to her having taken over Aroden's position in the Pantheon and inherited many of his followers. She is also commonly called the Lady of Valor, or the Light of the Sword. Iomedae is known for the strength of her convictions and principles. She is the Platonic ideal of the honorable knight, encouraging mercy balanced by firmness, martial skill balanced by charity, and a desire for peace balanced by a willingness to stand up to injustice. Outside of her formal clergy, she is worshipped primarily by soldiers, military officers, aristocrats, and judges. Iomedae is consistently depicted much as she looked in life, a fit, chelish woman with short dark hair wearing gleaming full-plate armor. She is always shown wielding a longsword and shield. Her appearance is said to change based on her mood. When she is pleased, her armor shines white and is trimmed in gold, and her cloak is whiter than new-fallen snow. When she is angered, her armor darkens to the color of adamantine, losing much of its decoration, and her cloak turns blood red. Though the Inheritor has taken up Aroden's position in the Golarion Pantheon, she has notably not taken up his domain in Axis. Instead, she makes her home in Proalara, the second tier of heaven. Her realm is a peaceful land, dotted with small keeps and fortresses. While she is by far the youngest of the major deities in heaven, she has rapidly taken up a position of authority in heaven's armies. Some of heaven's less warlike occupants have taken issue with her rapid rise in authority and importance, and complained that all of heaven might soon fall under her influence. Devout followers of Iomedae, called Iomedaeans, are heroic protectors of the innocent, vanquishers of evil, and champions of order and justice. They are tasked with standing up against villainy in all its forms, and taking an active role in the betterment of the world. The Church of Iomedae is a rigidly hierarchical organization, structured much like a military order. While the Church emphasizes the importance of laws and justice, they are willing to act out against local governments if they are operating in lawful but evil fashion. The Church has an active presence in most peaceful cities and towns throughout the Inner Sea region, though followers are far more active in areas of conflict, such as the Eye of Dread or Sarkoris. Purpose-built temples of Iomedae incorporate the aspects of both cathedrals and fortresses, combining large decorative spaces for worship with defensible fortified structures. This holds true for temples in cities and in areas of conflict, though sites in or around war zones will place substantially more emphasis on defensibility. The other type of temples to Iomedae are those which began their existence as temples to Aroden. These vary substantially in design, as followers of Iomedae are deliberately slow to fully replace the Arodenite features out of respect for the dead god's legacy. Temples are often painted white and decorated with sword motifs, drawing inspiration from the Inheritor's favored weapon and holy symbol. Notably, temples in areas of peace are rarely staffed by ranking clergy members, instead being managed by adepts, trainees, and sometimes elders. Clergy members capable of fighting are much more likely to live in areas of conflict, actively fighting the forces of evil. Besides formal temples, shrines to Iomedae take the form of piled stones, with the hilt of a broken sword placed on top, and are commonly placed on the sites of battlefields where followers of Iomedae fell. These are very similar to shrines of Gorum, and will often be found in many of the same places, as both faiths consider battlefields to be sacred. Iomedae's holy text is the Acts of Iomedae, a book detailing 11 feats of heroism which Iomedae performed before her ascension, as well as commentary on these acts and lessons followers can learn from them. Churches of Iomedae might also maintain records of the heroic deeds of church members, using these records as supplemental texts to inspire followers. The Church of Iomedae rose to prominence rapidly after the death of Aroden in 4606, and it took root in most areas where Aroden's faith had been substantial, including Absalom, Taldor, and Cheliax, as well as Lastwall, Multhune, and Nirmathus. The church also has a strong presence in Mendev and Sarkoris, due to its involvement in the crusade against the worldwound. Prior to her ascension, Iomedae was a mortal woman. She was born in Cheliax under the height of Aroden's religious prominence. She distinguished herself for her martial skill and her devotion to her ideals, and became a champion of Erasni, the herald of Aroden. In 3816, she joined the Shining Crusade against the Whispering Tyrant, and quickly rose to prominence among its ranks. She eventually rose to become the leader of the Knights of Ozem, an order of knights devoted to the destruction of Tar-Baphon. It was during this time that Iomedae completed the 11 acts, which inspired her holy text. Many of these acts, the first, second, third, and fifth, center around Iomedae facing and defeating some powerful enemy or group of enemies. These range from undead servants of Tar-Baphon to a coven of witches. The fourth and eighth acts focus on her inspirational qualities, convincing her fellow knights to hold their ground in the face of overwhelming odds, and convincing a grave knight to throw himself upon his own sword in remorse for his villainy. The sixth act details how Iomedae reforged her sword into the artifact Heart's Edge after it was shattered by the Whispering Tyrant. This was accomplished with a prayer to Aroden and a vow to destroy Tar-Baphon. The seventh act involved the defense of Absalom. During a storm which darkened the sky, a horde of sea ghouls attacked the city. Iomedae called upon the Starstone itself to light the city, and the stone responded. The entire Starstone Cathedral glowed with blue flame, and the Lady of Valor was able to lead the city's defenders in a counterattack. The ninth act emphasizes Iomedae's sacrificial nature. A vampire mage had captured 9 righteous knights and offered them in exchange for 9 drops of Iomedae's blood. She agreed, then turned the knights back on the vampire to slay him. The 10th act emphasizes her commitment to leadership and justice. The city lord of Cantaria in Cheliax went missing, and Iomedae took up the position for a year and a day. During this time, the city prospered, and the Lady of Valor personally fought back a group of faceless stalkers which had been threatening the town. Iomedae's 11th act occurred in 3822, as she made her way to the Test of the Starstone. Approaching the cathedral, Iomedae threw down her cloak. The fabric spread out over the pit of the Starstone, providing her with a path across the pit. Then Iomedae ascended to divinity, becoming a god. Her motivation for taking the test seems to be to fill the role left by Erasni, who died during her lifetime at the hands of Tar-Baphon. Upon attaining divinity, she takes up the position of Aroden's herald, and is named the patron deity of the Knights of Ozem. Aroden, for his part, quickly came to rely on Iomedae's unrelenting positivity and dedication to righteousness. This counterbalanced his own increasing negativity and despair. Then, in 4606, Aroden died. Iomedae, ever the leader, took charge and stepped into Aroden's role in the pantheon. Her faith was quickly adopted by the now powerless Arodenites, and she took care to take them and his divine servants under her protection. Rather than attempt to replicate Aroden's status as the god of humanity, Iomedae opened her faith to all. She chose to become a patron goddess of goodness and righteousness, rather than a deity of culture and fate. In response to the opening of the worldwound after Aroden's death, Iomedae organized her church around a new goal: the destruction of Descari and the closing of the portal to the abyss. She called on her followers to form the Mendevian Crusades and march on the demon hordes. In recent years, the events of the Wrath of the Righteous adventure path detail the eventual success of these crusades. Despite her youth relative to the other gods, Iomedae has already firmly established her position with her fellows. Among the good and neutral deities, she is generally well respected, if not always well liked. She has good relationships with Torag and Sarenrae in particular, as both deities are committed to defeating the forces of evil, as she is. She considers Sarenrae something of a superior, and will often defer to the Dawnflower's assignments for angels who serve the both of them. That said, she takes a harsher view of forgiveness and redemption than Sarenrae, and correspondingly is more willing to strike down foes. Iomedae notably gets along well with Shizuru, the Tianmin goddess of honor, duty, and samurai, who considers her something of a little sister. The two of them share a great deal in common, and their areas of interest overlap substantially. She struggles to work with Erastil, seeing him as too aloof to the affairs of the wider world, and encourages him to take more action in the defense of the communities he loves so dearly. She considers Caden Kalian an ally, though she wishes he would take his efforts to do good a bit more seriously. Irori looks down upon Iomedae for having attained divinity by passing the test of the Starstone, as he believes she simply followed in the footsteps of Aroden before her. The Inheritor also has a strained relationship with Erasni, who has returned from the dead. While they are probably not enemies, there is still tension between them from Iomedae having stepped into Erasni's position as the Herald of Aroden. The Lady of Valor sees all fiends and fiendish deities as entirely evil and unworthy of pity. The only evil deity with whom she will deal is Asmodeus himself, though she only does so with extreme caution, and only when absolutely necessary. To my knowledge, she has not yet had any interactions with Nocticula, the redeemed former demon lord. I would be quite interested to see the interactions between followers of these two goddesses, as Nocticula certainly has past crimes for which she should be held accountable, though she is also currently a force for good in the universe. For players who might be interested in characters who follow Iomedae, here are a few useful details. For those using the alignment rules, Iomedae is a lawful good deity, and will accept clerics of only that or neutral good alignment. Her edicts are to be temperate, to fight for justice and honor, and to hold valor in your heart. Conversely, to abandon a companion in need, to dishonor yourself, or to refuse a challenge from an equal are all anathema to Iomedae. Her holy symbol is a longsword surrounded by a sunburst, though many followers may treat any longsword as a holy symbol. Iomedae's sacred colors are red and white, though gold is common as well, and followers will often display these colors prominently on their person in the form of cloaks, emblems, or badges. The Inheritor's status as a champion in her mortal life is reflected in the clothing of many of her followers, who often choose to specialize in heavy plate armor. Those followers who elect not to wear armor will still likely follow military styles in their fashion choices, since much of the church is involved in military campaigns. Iomedaeans will always work to maintain their armor and weapons, polishing them to a sheen. That said, armor is prized for its practicality, and while followers will take pride in its upkeep, they will rarely seek to adorn it to the point of impracticality. The exception to this rule might be decorations associated with the faith, such as lion's head pauldrons, or, more commonly, large holy symbols of Iomedae, painted on breastplates or shields. Some followers go so far as to tattoo her holy symbol on their bare chests, and it is said that the symbol glows when they act in accordance with her will. The Inheritor's favored weapon is the longsword, and this weapon serves as an incredibly important symbol for the church. Serving as both her holy symbol and her weapon of choice, the longsword is present in nearly all Iomedaean architecture and decor, from statues to paintings to tapestries. When Iomedaeans get married, swords are even engraved on the rings as a sign of devotion. All that to say that a huge majority of the Inheritor's followers choose to wield the longsword. Commonly, this is paired with a shield, though not always. Lances might be common among those followers who fight from horseback, and longbows among those who fight at range. Other weapons found among the faithful might include similarly knightly weapons, such as the warhammer or the morning star. Veterans of the Mendevian Crusades might carry cold iron weapons to deal with demons, while those fighting Tar-Bathon might choose weapons particularly effective against the undead. Iomedae's favored animal is the lion, though she also has a fondness for eagles and other animals which might be classically associated with leadership. With her focus on knighthood, horses are common among her followers as well, and the goddess herself was said to ride a hippogriff in her time as a mortal. Iomedae's priesthood is made up exclusively of clerics and champions, though the vast majority of these spend their days on the front lines of battle rather than preaching in a temple. Rangers, fighters, and gunslingers also rise to prominence in the church, though generally only in supplementary roles and almost never as members of the clergy. Spellcasters which might take kindly to the Inheritor's faith likely include battle mystery oracles, angelic bloodline sorcerers, and bards who seek to inspire their fellow crusaders in combat. Martial characters will likely take feats from archetypes like the Bastion, the Sentinel, or the Cavalier, while spellcasters might follow the path of the Hallowed Necromancer to destroy the forces of the Whispering Tyrant. While less common, monks are certainly likely to find the teachings of Iomedae appealing. I also imagine a thaumaturge using a longsword as a weapon implement might find acceptance among the church as well. As an off-the-wall character idea, I'm picturing an inventor with the armor innovation, styling himself as a mechanized knight. For players interested in third-party content, check out the War Priest class archetype in Clerics Plus, or the Zealot Instinct from Barbarians Plus, both available on Pathfinder Infinite. Iomedae has very specifically rejected Aroden's mantle as the patron god of humanity. Instead, she has opened her faith to all ancestries. That said, many of her followers are still human, due in no small part to her having absorbed most of Aroden's followers upon his death. Most of her followers are in southern Avestan, and of either Chelish or Taldan ethnicity. Some Varisians around the Eye of Dread have taken to her faith as well, as have some Kelids in the areas around Sarkoris and the Worldwound. Outside of humans, halflings have taken strongly to her faith, and make up a substantial number of followers. This is likely due in part to Iomedae's stance against Asmodeus and infernal Cheliacs, where many halflings face severe discrimination and are often taken as slaves. Other ancestries and heritages could be reasonably found among the Inheritor's faithful, so long as they are willing to face the evils of the world. Versatile heritages with the perceived taint of evil might be particularly thematic, such as the Changeling, the Tiefling-inspired Nephilim, or the Dromar. Devout followers of Iomedae will live lives of bravery and conviction, standing up for what is right and defending those in need. They make for loyal friends and steadfast counselors, and are generally honest and hard-working. They also have an unfortunate tendency to insert themselves into matters which don't immediately concern them, and can come off as stiff and joyless at times. They are likely to be married, or at least open to the idea, since the Inheritor sees value in love and commitment. While firm in their beliefs and principles, they aren't without joy, and on festival days they can often be found making artistic displays with their weapons, meant to entertain and inspire others. They will often spend up to an hour a day in prayer, though some might combine this time with time spent polishing weapons or armor, or time spent performing daily exercises. For those players looking for more character inspiration, or to homebrew some custom magic items for a follower of Iomedae, check out her first edition page on Archives of Nethys. Her Paladin code should tell you everything you need to know about her followers, and her divine fighting technique is an excellent example of both fighting the forces of evil and inspiring one's allies. The Inheritor's light weapon might be fun to bring up from 1E, and is very on-brand for Iomedae. For GMs looking to integrate Iomedae and her followers into a campaign, here are some ideas. Iomedae's current herald is Galfrey, the former queen of Mendev, who ascended to this status at the end of the Mendevian Crusades. Formerly, her herald was the Hand of the Inheritor, an angel who was captured and tortured during these crusades by the demon lord Baphomet. Iomedae's divine servitors are the Iophonite angels, enthusiastic outgoing messengers who take the form of floating metal discs. In addition to reaching out through these creatures, Iomedae might show her favor to players by sending a halo of golden or white light to shine upon a character, or by pulling a weapon in a particular direction, as if by magnetism. Iomedae, more than most deities, encourages active involvement in the struggles of the world on the part of her followers. Her church is involved in most major conflicts against evil, to one degree or another. The most obvious storyline for their involvement is the ongoing struggle against the Whispering Tyrant around the Eye of Dread. Iomedae has a personal interest in seeing Tar-Baphon struck down, and her followers are common in the region and among the Knights of Lastwall. Iomedae is also planning to take major action against Asmodeus and his rule over her homeland of Cheliax. A campaign here would put her followers on the back foot, as they would be unable to act openly as a conventional army for fear of being stamped out by the Chelish authorities. Potential allies in this fight include agents from Ravenel or Andoran, the Halfling freedom fighters in the Bellflower Network, or even the recently detailed Firebrands. A possible plot point in such a campaign might be the reclamation of Heart's Edge, which was lost to Queen Abigail II of House Thrune in recent years. Iomedae's test of the Starstone resulted in more than just her ascension to godhood. The remains of her helm survived the trial and remained on the ground after she rose to the heavens as a god. This artifact became known as the Thorn Crown of Iomedae, and is an immensely powerful item of extreme religious significance. The crown was stolen from the Church of Iomedae centuries ago, but was recovered by the Pathfinder Society. The Society refused to return the artifact to the Church, hoping to research it to glean new secrets about the test of the Starstone. This artifact was eventually lost in Galt during that nation's bloody revolution. It is sought to this day by followers of Iomedae, desperate Arodenites, and the Pathfinder Society. Finally, I'll explore an adventure outside of the Inner Sea. Iomedae's faith is common among Taldans, and Taldor spread many armies of exploration around Golarion. The farthest reaching of these eventually landed in Tian Sha, and settled a new nation called Amanandar, soon to be renamed Linvar. It is entirely possible that followers of Iomedae exist here, alongside followers of the more traditional Tian pantheon. It could be fun to center an adventure around an order of knights and samurai devoted to both Iomedae and Shizuru. They might need to work together to fight the forces which seek to drive a cultural wedge between Linvar and its neighbor states. So that's it. That's Iomedae, the goddess of honor, valor, and leadership. She's a paragon of goodness and virtue, and takes an active role in the fate of Golarion, despite her relative youth. Next, I'll be covering the eldest of the still-living Starstone Ascendant, one who is a paragon of evil and mystery. Up next is Norgorber, the god of thievery, murder, and secrets. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out my rules supplement Expanded Ancestries on Pathfinder Infinite. It adds over 200 new ancestry feats to the game, spread among each of the ancestries not covered by the Pathfinder 2e remaster. And be sure to like and subscribe to see more videos like this.